I guess I should just start by saying, why are we looking at this topic of managing a virtual meeting? I mean, first of all, in our training, we look at communication skills and management training. And yet you need to demonstrate your professionalism, number one. If you start a conference call very professionally, you will have captured the attention of the audience. Everyone will listen to you and they will feel confident in you as a leader. And much like a presentation, the attention span will decrease as time moves on. So if you need to start really strong and really get people's attention. And of course, you just need to make sure that the meeting is productive. I mean, hands up if half or more of your meetings are unproductive. You always feel frustrated. Why are we just talking? Why is nothing happening? I mean, these are very common complaints about meetings. I spend 6 hours in meetings every day, but nothing ever happens. And I think a lot of that is because the manager of that meeting is not fully in control and fully prepared. So it's a big responsibility. So yeah, of course, with the first section here on dealing with attendance, again, some of this may seem obvious, but I'd like to really explore the ideas. So yeah, with the participants, of course, you need to make a brief announcement about who's going to join the call. This should already be clear from the agenda you've sent out before the call, but it's still important to begin by clarifying who will join the call. So yeah, one of my pet peeves, if you remember earlier, pet peeve is something that annoys me, is that there's no agenda, you know. If people don't send out an agenda and it's not clear as to who's going to be there, you can't expect that call to be professional and productive. But yeah, just quickly go through the participants and who is there. So I've got some examples of language here that we can use when we are beginning the conference call, beginning the virtual meeting. So yeah, first of all, greet the participants on the call and thank them for joining. And again, I mean, last time we talked a little bit about pronunciation and your tone and being positive. So rather than, good morning, everyone, thanks for making the time to attend today. Yeah, you need to put some energy in. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making the time to attend today. It's really great to see you. Okay, so just a little bit of positivity will go a long way. Even if it's 8:30 in the evening before Dragon Boat Festival, you have to try and give a little more energy. Okay. The next thing, you need to deal with the attendance, as we just said. So on the conference call or in this virtual meeting, or just on the call or in the meeting, we have Mr. Tom Green, the Global Marketing Director, calling in from the US. Okay. Now, you guys, as I think all Taiwanese people, yeah, sometimes it's difficult with the accuracy, but calling in from. So yeah, just kind of remember that as a phrase, calling in from. Oh, we've got somebody else joining the call. Anna, admit. Okay. When Anna's mic has joined, I'll just quickly introduce her. Okay, so yeah, you deal with the attendance and then you move on to beginning the call. So now that we're all signed in, let's begin. Or I think we're all here now, so let's get started. So obviously that middle section there, dealing with the attendance. On this conference call, we have Mr. Tom Green, the Global Marketing Director, calling in from the US. Okay, we're going to look more closely at the language later on, and then I'm going to ask you to practice a little. So don't worry about making lots of notes now or feeling like you're falling behind. I'm going to move kind of quickly today because it's a webinar anyway. In our face-to-face training, obviously, we have a bit more time for interaction. Anna, hello, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you good. Thank you.
Okay, very nice. Well, I tried to use a professional microphone so that it sounds nice and clear.
Sure, that's a very, very good one. I can hear.
Yeah, Anna, could you just quickly introduce yourself? Would that be okay?
Sure. Okay, my name's Anna. I just moved back from Silicon Valley to Taiwan about a month ago. So my background will be in instructional technology, and so I think it's good for me to continue learn a lot of things. So that's the reason why I joined this group.
Very nice. Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah, we've got Lin Yan in Hsinchu, Vicky in Kaohsiung, Francis in Taipei, and Anna, are you back in Taipei, did you say?
Yeah, I'm in Taipei now.
Okay, very nice. Right. So yeah, we're just looking here at the kind of first part, really, on dealing with attendance. And yeah, I mean, we'll look at some of this language a little bit closer, but yeah, be positive. Remember some of the techniques that we spoke about in our first session. Make sure to speak slowly, clearly, use positive pronunciation. And I mean, down here again, now that we are all signed in, let's begin. Simple things like using we and let us, or we are. I know it seems very, very kind of like a small detail, but using language like this is inclusive and will make people feel a part of the meeting and a part of the mission, not just, hi, now that you are all signed in, I think you should start now. So, you know what I mean? So yeah, try to make it more of a team, a collaboration, rather than just a kind of top-down, I'm speaking to you. Okay, good. So next up, in dealing with attendance, you need to make introductions. I'll read this first and then we can talk about it. So yeah, introduce the others and give them a chance to say hello, or allow everyone the opportunity to introduce himself or herself. Participants can simply say their name, or they might say their name, location, and give a brief introduction to their job. Again, simple, but people do forget to do these things. I suppose the idea is allowing people to relax a little, to get to know each other. And as a manager of a virtual meeting, you need to facilitate collaboration. You need to introduce people to each other, because again, hands up if you don't always read the agenda, right? I'm sure, okay? You're not gonna put, yes, good Vicky, honest Lin Yan. Francis, I can't see you. But yeah, we don't always read the agenda. We don't always have time. And I think we can be honest about that. And I think we can reduce the chance of communication breakdown by just reintroducing people and familiarizing ourselves with our colleagues. And of course, you know, we are, like Vicky, I think it was, said, sometimes we're working with people in a regional position or global positions that maybe we talk to once every 6 months. I think it's very important to kind of reconfirm or reestablish who we're talking to. So yeah, very kind of simple approach here. Signpost your intention. So what does that mean? Tell people what you're going to do. Okay, in conference calling and virtual meetings, if you don't have, especially if you can't see people, it's very important to be very clear about what you're going to say and what you're going to do. So here we say, okay, let me begin by briefly introducing everyone. Tom Lee is the head of marketing in Southeast Asia. He's been with the company for 10 years. He's based in Thailand and he's joining our call from his office in Bangkok. That spelling mistake? No. And then invite participants to greet each other. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Lee. And then you might have a minute, less than a minute, 20 seconds. Hi, Mr. Lee. Hi, Tom. How are you? No. So yeah, just a quick introduction. And again, we're looking at the language here. If I drag my mouse down, he is joining our call from. So to join from, that's how you introduce where someone's. So let me begin by briefly introducing everyone. Vicky Chen is the training specialist at a company in Taoyuan, and she is joining our call from her home in Kaohsiung. Please, everyone, welcome Vicky. Linya, okay. So yeah, at that point, the others can say hi if they want to. Mm-hmm. Okay, Lin Yen, would you like to try and introduce me?
Oh my God, okay. And let me begin by briefly introducing Lawrence to everyone. Lawrence is the business developer, right? For NextGen, I cannot read that clearly. For
Just call it
NextGen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for NextGen. And he has been with this company for 2 years, and he based in Taipei, and he's joining our call from his office in Taipei. And everyone, please welcome Lawrence. What?
No, actually, no, that's very good. I'm just,
okay.
This actually raises an interesting point. We, again, in our training, often get asked to come to companies by senior leadership because they feel that their team are not assertive enough. Okay, so they're in a meeting or they're on a conference call and people will be quiet rather than speak. Okay, there are many reasons for this. Yeah, maybe your English isn't perfect and so you're shy. Maybe the way the organizational culture isn't supportive and so people don't feel like they want to talk in a meeting. But as an employee, if you want to move up the organization, a very easy way to do that is to be assertive. So assertive means confident in a way. So if there's
stand out.
Yeah, like stand out. Mm-hmm. So if there's an opportunity to speak, then I think it's a good idea to take that opportunity. So for example, everyone please welcome Lawrence. Then Vicky will say, okay, it's my moment for everyone in the global team to hear me and to kind of say hi to Lawrence. And she'll say, yeah, hi, Lawrence. So, yeah, it's great to see you again. Maybe we can catch up for a coffee next week. Okay. So there, it's just very, very quick, very simple, but you stand out. And I guess in business, kind of positioning yourself ready for the next promotion can happen anytime, anywhere. And a conference call is a good way to do that. Conference calls are great because you get to meet people that you never normally do. You might be on, I used to work for the British Council as the head of corporate training there. On the conference calls, I would get to meet the global head of English for the British Council. And I would never meet that person normally. And if I can build a relationship up online and then take that offline later, that puts me in a great position for future promotion. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Here, so yeah, newcomers. Today we have 2 newcomers. We've got Vicky and Anna. Welcome. So yeah, deal with any newcomers or people who are not on the agenda. If this is a regular conference call, you need to deal with any newcomers who don't usually participate. You should introduce them by name, describe their location, job, and explain briefly why they're on the call. Number 1, this is just polite. Number 2, I suppose if you've got someone new on the call and people don't know why they're there or what they're there for, they might feel a little unsure as to how they should talk with that person, what they should talk with that person about. So I think kind of just establishing that early will improve communication and teamwork later on. Okay, and here are some more examples of how you can do that. So it's a pleasure to welcome Miss Sue Green, so quite formal there, on today's call. So yeah, use positive language. Oh, Tim's just joined the call. 1 second, I'll admit him. So yeah, use positive language. It's a pleasure to welcome Miss Sue Green, okay? Introduce her job title. She's a sales manager in our sales office, and explain why they're joining the call. So she's sitting in today to get to know our team and learn about the market in Taiwan. Tim, thank you for joining. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Tim, would you mind just muting your microphone? Just because we're getting a little background noise from you.
Oh, sorry, the pleasure is mine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so there I was using some positive language to introduce Tim. Okay, and yeah, again, focus here on the language in the bottom. She is sitting in today to get to know our team. So this is very professional, very natural use of English that I guess you could say she's here today if you want something more simple. But yeah, sitting in is I mean, I used to teach English for the British Council a long time ago. So when I explain things, often I have a very kind of teaching English perspective. But yeah, sitting in is an idiom. It's a phrasal verb. And if you use phrasal verbs like sitting in, it's less formal, but it's more natural. Okay, and I think in building relationships with people, if you can use more natural language, they will feel it will be easier to build a relationship with you. Okay, because you will sound more casual, more likable. So yeah, although it's more difficult to use language like this, she is sitting in today. It can actually help your ability to build relationships with people and to sound more natural. Okay, I'm just going to pause there. I'm getting a little bit hot. I'm in a studio here surrounded by lights, and I turn off the air conditioning because I don't want the background noise on the microphone. So I'm very professional, but very hot at the same time. Does anybody have any questions there? I'm just going to take a little minute. Lin Yan, would you like to say anything, or Vicky?
So sorry, you mean questions? So far, I don't have.
No? Okay. Vicky, any questions?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Am I speaking too quickly? Am I too quiet? Is there anything I can do better?
So far, I think the space is fine. The speed is fine.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback. Francis,
Yeah,
you still there? I can't.
I do have a question. So,
Yes.
if it's a real physical meeting, we can say that's welcome so and so. But for like Zoom meeting, how do we do the welcome that everybody can participate? So, do everybody unmute their microphone, or how technicality? How do we do that?
Yes. So, so you're talking about how to set kind of guidelines for the meeting?
Well, no, more like when we do the welcome, like, hey, that's welcome, this Sue Green, and then in the real room setting, people will pause and then smile or whatever. But in the Zoom meeting, so how do people do it now?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, one thing I want to point out, I suppose, is I guess for me, a virtual meeting, normally people will use the technology available. So Francis, I can see you. Vicky, I can see you. Lin Yan, I can see you. But Anna and Tim, I cannot see. So I lack the non-verbal communication. So I cannot see your facial expressions or your body language. So it's difficult for me to know whether you want to speak or not. So normally in my virtual meetings, I will kind of insist on people having their camera switched on, because why should we handicap ourselves? You know, why should we reduce our ability to communicate if we have the technology available? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand.
And I mean, it's interesting because I don't know, your experience in the US, do people activate their cameras usually, or do they have them off?
Well, it depends. Like my daughter, when they have online classes, normally they just they have the camera off, and some of them they just have some background which is not themselves. And then like for a small group meeting with friends, we do have the camera on, but sometimes depends on personal situation. Sometimes maybe too late, too early, and people didn't like dress up or something, so they don't have the camera on. But I was thinking about the chat. Can we kind of how to say, utilize the chat? Maybe we just chat, hey, welcome, Miss Sue Green, something like that. But it might take a little bit longer time to switch between, the chat and come back to the screen that looking at the instructor. So.
Yeah, no, I understand. I guess I have a few points then. I mean, you can kind of gamify the start of a meeting, and you could say, right, in alphabetical order, can we introduce ourselves? And then people have to kind of, so Anna, you would be first, and then it would be Francis, I think, and then Lin Yen and Tim. So we could do it like that. Or, as the manager, you can, because I here can mute you, right? I have the function to mute you, as I have just done now, and I can unmute Francis, and now Francis will have to speak. Okay, so yeah, I mean, either you can control it using the kind of technical features available on Zoom, or you can gamify the experience. But I wouldn't spend too long introducing everybody, especially if you have more than 5 people on the call. I think it might, if it's a close team and there are just maybe 2 people who are new to the team or just kind of joining the call for whatever reason, I think we just focus on those 2. Does that answer your question?
Forgot to unmute. Okay, I just unmute. Thank you so much. Yeah, you pretty much answered my question.
Yeah, I mean, managing the technology can be a little challenging because unless you're very fluent with Zoom, it can be a lot to think about. And I was explaining to Lin Yen earlier that sometimes I will assign a co-host in my meetings. And when we're doing our training, paid training, B2B training, we often have 2 trainers on the webinar, so that one person is managing the group chat and the other person is managing the kind of face-to-face. And that just makes it easier for the person presenting to focus on managing and facilitating the conversation. Because yeah, it is really difficult in this kind of virtual environment. Okay. Thank you for the question, Anna. And please do interrupt as we go along because it is nice to get feedback. Although it looks like I'm in a very nice office, I'm in front of a green screen. And yeah, it's nice to have some feedback. Good. Okay, Francis, are you okay? Oh, he's managing the chat box. Okay, Francis is on the chat box. If you have any questions, pop them in there and Francis can try and answer them for you. Okay, so we have looked at the kind of first part there of dealing with the attendance. And I thought we could just have a mini practice here. Now, again, it's a little bit difficult to communicate the language, I think, online. In our small training, we often provide a training kit before the training, and then you can preview the material and kind of prepare for the activities. But for a public webinar, I don't know who's going to join, so it's difficult for me to send out our training kit. I also worry about copyright, but because we create all our own materials, so we license the material as well. So here, it doesn't look very nice, but I've just copied one of the sections of language from our training kits, and I think you can probably all see that. You might need to rearrange your screen in front of you slightly so you can better see the language boxes here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I will create an ebook from today's session and share that with everybody afterwards. So you don't have to worry about taking a photo or trying to write all of this down. But what I'd just like to do is for us each, maybe not all of us because there are 7, but have an opportunity to just introduce people, deal with the attendance, and deal with some introductions. So for example, I might say, good evening, everyone. Thanks for making time to attend today. On the call, we have Vicky Chen, Miss Vicky Chen, the training manager, calling in from Kaohsiung. Unfortunately, Mr. Lin is unable to join us from Taipei because he's on a business trip. I'd just like to do a quick check. Anna, are you there? Anna, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you well.
Okay, great. So I think we're all present. I think that in that case, if we're all here, let's just start the meeting. Okay, so let me just briefly introduce. Let me briefly introduce everyone. Francis is the head of human resources at Gogoro in Taiwan. He's been with the company for 7 years, and he's based in South Africa, and he's joining our call from Taiwan today. Everyone, please say a quick hi to Francis.
Hi, Francis.
Hello.
Hi, Francis.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. A bit slow there. Okay, good. So there's just a quick example of me, during the very first part of the conference call, kind of introducing people, dealing with the attendance. So could each of you just take a look at the language here, and then I will choose one or two of you to quickly introduce a few people on the call and start the meeting, okay? And if you are nervous, you can obviously politely decline to do this activity. Okay, this is not product placement. Okay, when you are ready, if you just like to put yourself forward, that would be great. Lin Yan, I know you're very confident. Are you ready?
Okay, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for making time to attend today. And on this call, we have Lawrence as business developer in NextGen to attend this meeting and calling in from Taipei in his office. And unfortunately, my boss cannot join us from Hsinchu because she's on Dragon Boat Festival. And I would just like to quick check if Anna's here.
Yes.
Anna, no? Oh, yes.
Yes, indeed, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think everyone is signed in now, so let's start. Okay.
Okay.
Good job.
Okay, very good. Good job. Thank you, Anna. It's always nice to get the positive feedback. Lin Yan, great job. Because she's on Dragon Boat Festival, I think you can just say because she's on leave. Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's on leave. Okay.
Yeah. And I think I had time then to think about Anna's question from before. I think we just need to, we talked actually in our first session in this series on virtual meetings, we talked about turn taking. And turn taking is the natural pauses that we have between one speaker and another speaker, taking turns. So I think on a conference call, if you ask an open question or you want people to say hi, then I think you just need to have that longer pause and wait. Okay, so yeah, I think your speech needs to be slower, and you need to have longer pauses to give people the chance to because there's the physical aspect of unmuting your microphone. Maybe you're drinking your tea, you have to put your tea down, you have to unmute your microphone, then you have to say hi, then mute again. So yeah, you just have to have those slightly longer pauses. Okay, without, I don't want to put anybody under pressure. So would somebody like to try? I can see Vicky's smiling. I think she wants to, but she's a little bit shy. Go on, Vicky. We believe in you. Everyone, let's jayo.
Jayo, jayo. Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Vicky Chen, and I would like to introduce this meeting's attendance. First of all, I want to introduce the Francis Zhao. He is working in Gogora about the human resource. Yes, and the Lawrence is the next generation's business development. And about Lin Yan, she is calling from, is it Hsinchu? Yeah, good. And Anna, she just come back from somewhere and join our meeting. Welcome everybody. I appreciate you join this meeting.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so the section, yeah, very nice, thank you. You are breaking up a little bit. I don't know, is that my problem? Other people? Is she breaking up a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So Lin Yan, I think your internet connection may be a little bit slow, so. Okay. I think she's having some technical issues. It was the pressure. Okay, I'm going to, okay, she's muted herself. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, actually, Vicky, I mean, while we're here, we do lots of virtual meetings. Today, I have my camera on HD, and Zoom normally recommends that you switch off your HD setting because it uses more bandwidth. So when you're facing an issue, like you're breaking up in a meeting, one, you might be able to switch your camera to standard definition, SD. If you're still breaking up, you can also just switch off the camera and that will use less bandwidth. But when I'm doing training, when I'm delivering training, I definitely always use cable, you know, so I'm connected to Ethernet because, yeah, sometimes, even though the internet in Taiwan is very good, yeah, you can't really rely on Wi-Fi as a stable connection. And again, so yeah, I've got HD today because I wanted to look very, very clear for you. Anyway, you mentioned there, Vicky, you said about Lin Yan. That was a way that you kind of introduced her. I think maybe you could say, for example, yeah, if I'll just put the phrase down here. Sorry, my mouse has disappeared now. Oh, that's to Francis. So yeah, about Lin Yan. You could say, I mean, just cut that out. I don't know, is that Chinese English, about Lin Yan? Maybe you could just say, Lin Yan, our marketing director, is joining us from ... She will present later on a range of different topics. So yeah, just about Lin Yan, you might want to change the way that you phrase that. But yeah, thank you very much for taking part in that activity. Okay, I'm just checking the time. It's 5 minutes to 9. I think if we have time at the end, we can always come back and do more of these speaking activities. But normally our webinars, they're a little bit more me to you rather than lots and lots of collaboration. Obviously in our face-to-face training and small group virtual seminars, we have lots of breakout rooms and lots more interaction. Okay, good. So another part that you'll need to deal with is apologies. I mean, again, seems fairly obvious, but there's a lot of things to think about if you're managing a conference call. So having a list of stages that you need to go through and ticking them off as you're speaking will really help. You know, as a teacher, I'll have my notes for the session and I will try to tick them off as I go through. As a manager of a conference call, I think it would also be a good idea to have a list of notes for a meeting and to tick them off as you go through. So yeah, point 4 is giving apologies. And of course you need to give apologies for people who won't attend. Why? I mean, I would suggest that, let's say your human resource director has not joined the call, but she should be on the call, or he should be on the call. If they're not there, but the rest of the team is, you know, as a more superior person or more high-level person in the organization, you might feel quite demotivated why the HR director couldn't be bothered to join, okay? So why should I be bothered to join? Okay, so I think as a manager of the conference call or the virtual meeting, you should provide the team with a valid reason as to why someone hasn't joined. And yeah, I mean, I've got some examples here. So very short and simple, you could just say, I'm afraid that Betty Chen can't be with us today. She's on a business trip. So that's kind of, you know, a few seconds, and I think justifies why they're not with us. More formal, Mr. Jack Black, capital B, the marketing manager, was scheduled to join this meeting. He sends his apologies. He's unable to join this call because of a business trip. Yeah, so I mean, just two different ways there to give apologies. And I'm not sure if this is very British, but we often use the phrase, I'm afraid, which doesn't mean I'm scared. It just means I'm sorry or I'm sad to say. So yeah, I'm afraid that Betty Chen can't be with us today. She's on a business trip. And again, I mean, I am sure that everyone on this call today, you know that words can't be with us today. You know them all by themselves, but as a phrase, someone cannot be with us today. That's a very kind of unique phrase that you can use for saying that someone isn't here. So yeah, professional, natural, idiomatic language, which again will make you seem like a very, very high level speaker. And I mean, that's what we do at NextGen. Lin Yen, NextGen Corporate Language Training, just so you remember, okay? You remember NextGen Corporate Language Training. Although we're going through a bit of a branding change at the moment, I think I'm going to change it to NextGen Corporate Communication Training, because when people hear language, they think, oh, English teachers, but we're not really English teachers. We're a bit more than that. So yeah, I would say that simple phrases, professional phrases like this can really take your language to the next level. NextGen, next level. Okay, and yeah, you've got more formal. Obviously, if you're in a much more formal situation and the people on the call are more superior, then you can use more professional, more formal language, like the example in number 2. Okay, and yeah, that phrase there, he sends his apologies, very natural, very professional use of English. Yeah, he sends his apologies. Okay, good. Thank you again, Francis, for managing the chat box there. Lynn, our director, will give a presentation. Yeah, very nice. Is a signpost language is a question. Lynn, our director, will give a presentation on is, I'm afraid, a signpost language. I think we've got 2. Okay, so there's 2 points there. So yeah, first, Francis, thank you yet for introducing a professional way of introducing someone. Yeah, so Lin Yen, our director, will give a presentation on. And then your next point there is question, I'm afraid, is that signposting language? No, I would say that I'm afraid is polite, careful, sometimes we say tentative language. It's indirect language, okay? If I said, Betty Chen can't be with us today, she's on a business trip, it's quite direct and doesn't show any sense of emotion, or of course we want Betty to join us, right? We want Betty to feel included. We want everyone on the call to feel included. If we say, I'm afraid that Betty Chen can't be with us, it's kind of like, I'm sad and I'm demonstrating my sadness to you. Does that answer your question, Francis? He's gone for a coffee.
Yes, I could understand.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Francis. Another question, good. If I use unfortunately so, and so can't join us. Anna, could you unmute your mic and just explain?
Sure. So if I say, okay, unfortunately, like Michael Jordan couldn't join us today. So would this unfortunately kind of have a little bit negative hint or something, or is totally normal?
Good question. I think unfortunately is fine. Yeah, I don't think there's any negative feeling or negative. Here's another way you can say that. I'm just trying to use my chat box down here.
Okay.
Negative connotations.
Yeah, connotation. Yeah.
Yeah, negative feelings, negative connotations. So negative connotations just mean, does a word, when you say a word, does it have a bad feeling? Like, what do we often say? Yeah. So here's an example. People often describe things as cheap. So our training is very cheap. Okay, it's not. I'm lying. Okay, but our training is very cheap. That cheap has a very negative connotation. Cheap means low quality and low cost. Okay, I could say our training is great value for money. So that could mean high quality but inexpensive. So yeah, I could just say our training is inexpensive. Inexpensive has no positive or negative connotation, but great value for money has a very positive connotation. And yeah, in Taiwan, people often talk about cost down, and cost down, I think, is Chinese English, by the way. Yeah, so, you know, cost down has a kind of negative connotation. It also is Chinese English. If you actually Google cost down, only Chinese websites come up or Taiwanese websites come up. You can say manage our costs. Okay. So yeah, this quarter, we need to manage our costs. Yeah, that's a much more positive way of describing reduce our costs or cut our costs. Yeah, Francis, would you be able to type that up, to manage our costs or to cut our costs? Okay, I think he's on it. Very nice. Do I need to start paying you, Francis? Does this need to be a paid service? Okay.
Hello, Lawrence.
Yes, yes.
I would like to share a quick comment. Sometimes we use the term value engineering or value analysis to rephrase or to reduce. We use value engineering or value analysis.
And
yes.
You use that to do what?
To ask or request for cost reduction.
Value analysis. I mean, it's a new phrase to me. Today is the first time that I'm hearing a value analysis. But
yes. This term was used in semiconductor and the manufacturing field.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. And I think if you use that phrase in context, it sounds right. You know, we want to ensure our products are the best value for money. So we need to do a value analysis to understand if our product at each stage of the cycle is cost effective and being produced efficiently. So yeah, I think cost value analysis sounds like a business term, like the kind of thing that you would learn on an MBA, or, you know, if you were studying a kind of finance program. It sounds like kind of more technical way of describing that. So yeah, that sounds very nice, actually. How about adhere to our budget? Yep, very nice, Anna. To adhere to our budget is a nice way to describe kind of sticking to our budget, right? So not going above or below, just to adhere to the budget. Okay, good. We will have a Q&A at the end. So, I mean, it looks like there's lots of questions coming up now. So yeah, do keep them coming in, and I'll try and manage the chat box as I can. I didn't turn on the aircon yet, so I might be getting a little bit shiny.
Please do turn on the air conditioning. Don't
No,
torture yourself.
I need to lose weight. It's fine.
Okay.
The summer's coming and, you know, I got to lose weight. So great. Yeah, next point then, dealing with latecomers. Now, I've actually got a poll here because I'm not sure if I totally agree with what I've written here. So deal with latecomers. You should insist that everyone is on time, of course. If someone joins late, don't review what was covered, as this will annoy the others. Some conference call software includes an announcement when someone has just joined the meeting. This is disruptive if people are late, so you should consider turning this announcement off. Okay, so I think my main point there is to not review what was covered as latecomers join the call. Now, maybe you can tell me whether you agree or disagree with this statement. And I actually created I created a poll. I think I can launch now. Very nice. Okay. So I'm going to launch a poll, and I think you should be able to see a poll now on your screen. And all you need to do is to tell me whether you agree, disagree, or you're not sure about whether people should review what was covered for latecomers. So Anna says agree in the chat box down there. Do you see the, yep, okay, yeah, the responses are coming in. It depends is coming up. We've got one, absolutely. Okay, 2 more people. Oh no, I guess it's just 1 more, very nice. Okay, so we've got it depends wins with 67%. Then we've got 1 absolutely and 1 no way. Okay, so very mixed response there. Yeah, I mean, perhaps I could actually hear from a couple of you. So Anna says it depends on the size of the group. How about Tim? We haven't heard much from you today. Tim, what was your answer and why did you choose it?
Saying so may disrupt the sequence of the ongoing webinar. So I don't think it's proper to do so.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I think I agree more with Tim here that, you know, we have set an agenda, we have a set time. There are people in different countries. Some people are joining from the US, some are joining from South America. Everyone's made an effort to be here on time from different countries at different times of the day. I mean, I think only under exceptional circumstances should we review for a latecomer. And yeah, I think as Anna says, it depends on the size of the group. And if we have a number of latecomers, then it will just be disruptive. But does anybody want to disagree with Tim and I? I think somebody there said no way. Somebody said absolutely. Can somebody disagree with me? No, no one wants to disagree.
I mean, for me, I think it depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the person is very important, I mean, in very high position of the company, then I think I definitely need to interrupt a little bit and to introduce the situation right now to him or her.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice exception. So, if someone particularly important has joined the call, yeah, you might want to bring them in. Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Also, I think different cultures have different attitudes to time. The stereotype of Germany, and I lived in Germany for a year. I studied German for 17 years of my life. The stereotype of Germany is that they're very time conscious and like to be on time. In, I think, Spain, I understand time is meant to be a little bit more loose. Is there a difference between the north of Taiwan and the south of Taiwan? Is Kaohsiung a slightly more relaxed place, and so time is a little bit more kind of ambiguous? Maybe. Culture is a difficult thing to talk about because everyone is different. But yeah, some people have different attitudes to time. So I guess you have to just keep that in mind as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Anybody want to make a question or make a comment there, or should we move on? I think we're good. Okay, right, let's get rid of that. So yeah, I think with this one, you be the judge of whether you should introduce the latecomer or not. But it is incredibly frustrating for people who are on time to have to wait for people who are late. And I say that as someone who's very time conscious and always early. Like I'm always early because I get anxious if I'm even on time or late. And I will get very upset if, no offense to anybody today, I know it's a public webinar, it's not a professional meeting, but yeah, I get kind of physically upset if people are late for things. Yeah, anyway, let's not get too much into that. Good, so we have looked at dealing with the attendance and we've just got 15 minutes and we're gonna quickly look at outlining objectives and then dealing with recent developments. These are the kind of two stages, the final two stages, and what we think you should do in beginning a conference call. So yeah, clarify the objectives and outcomes. I'll just read this to you. Clarify why you are in the meeting and what you want to achieve. Stating the objectives and the expected outcomes at the beginning of the call will keep everyone focused on achieving those goals. It is also a great way to keep the conversation on track. If someone gets off topic, mention the objectives from the beginning of the call to get them back on track. Okay. Now, I think this, you know, we can all agree on this. There are people in a meeting who will try to, disrupt is a negative word, but they will try to take the meeting off in different directions, which I think is valuable sometimes. But a meeting should have clear objectives, and if the meeting is going off track for a good reason, then I think we need to take that offline. Okay, so maybe we need to talk about that outside of the meeting. So Francis, you can say, let's talk about that offline. Or let's take that conversation offline. So yeah, maybe that's when you have something which is a bit more relevant to just the people on the call, just maybe one or two people on the call, or maybe it's just not relevant at all and you don't want to be rude. You could just say, okay, Francis, thanks very much for your contribution. I think we can take that conversation offline and talk about that later on. Yeah, so just a kind of different way of yeah, highlighting that people are disrupting. Again, I don't have a better word for disrupting the conversation. I mean, here, from an English point of view, off track, on track, get back on track. So yeah, hi everyone. I think the conversation is getting a little off track. I think we need to get back on track now. I just refer to the objectives at the start of the meeting. We hope to ... Okay, so yeah, off track, to go off track, to get back on track. Lots of nice phrases there. You can say ahead of schedule, behind schedule. Yeah. So yeah, of course, having clear objectives. And it's the same like in teaching as well. Every class that you deliver, every training session that you deliver needs to have a clear objective, 1, 2, or 3 clear objectives to make sure that by the end of a training session, people will go away with something new and something learned. And I think the same is true for a meeting. Okay, so yeah, I've just got some more examples of language then you can use here for stating the objectives. Now, again, I mentioned this at the start of the call, use inclusive language. And inclusive language, I mean, it's a very big use of the term. It's a very big term, inclusive. It just means make people feel a part of the conversation. And a simple way is to use pronouns, like the personal pronouns, like our goal in today's conference is to. Okay, so our, not your goal. Okay, or I want you to outline our marketing strategy. Okay, our goal today is to outline our marketing strategy. Okay. Again, we get asked to come to companies because people don't feel confident. People don't feel confident contributing to meetings, especially when using English. And a lot of the time we find that people don't feel safe contributing to meetings, because the way that some managers will speak is quite top down, okay? And that could be your organizational culture, it could be country culture, you know, maybe if I just generalize for a second, maybe a very traditional Japanese organization. I've worked in one very traditional Japanese organization here in Taipei. Yeah, the approach to using language was kind of traditional. So it was, I'm the manager, you are my employees, and I will tell you what to do. And I think in modern, I'm being careful here because I don't like to suggest that one way of working is better than another. But in my humble opinion, I believe that we should see everyone as peers in an organization, no matter where you are on the organizational structure. Whether you're the managing director, the CEO, you should speak to people in a friendly and inclusive way. And a big part of our training actually is kind of helping management become more inclusive and create a sense of psychological safety in organizations. Okay, that's my, I'm rambling now, my rant. Okay, next point there. So use precise language. Why did I say that? So our goal in today's call is to outline our marketing strategy. Now I could say talk about, present, introduce, but talk about is kind of very, very general, right? We're going to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to talk about this. Use the right verb so that people understand your intention. Okay, so use the precise language, and I'll introduce some other ways that you can do that later on. Sorry, Siri just activated. Yeah, thank you, Francis. You're doing a great job today, Francis. Thank you. Establish the outcome. So our goal in today's conference call is to outline our marketing strategy and agree on the next steps to implement this strategy. Okay, so yeah, very nice way there of stating the objectives. And last slide here, I think we're going to finish about on time. Yeah, good. Deal with recent developments. So just before you begin dealing with the items on the agenda, take some time to review and discuss recent developments. In a face-to-face meeting, this is when you'd focus on the minutes of the previous meeting. In a virtual meeting, dealing with recent developments is similar to reviewing the minutes. Kind of obvious, right? I made some notes as to why this is important and why I think we should always try to deal with recent developments. Okay, so my first point is that you are being accountable and you are holding other people accountable. Okay, now if I asked you to do something in a previous meeting, or you asked me to do something in a previous meeting, and then I ask you to prepare for the next meeting, I think, you know, we should expect that you will have done the work, right? So I think number one, it's just good to hold people to account in business. You're being paid for a job to do it, okay? Maybe I'm a very strict person, I'm not sure. The next one is that, you know, let's say I, Lawrence, have, in the last meeting, I was asked to do something. I went away, I worked very hard, I did lots of research, and I'm ready to present. And I do a great job presenting that. It's an opportunity for my achievements, my hard work to be recognized and given a platform, okay? So people can, I can feel valued in an organization, right? If I have the opportunity to speak and present what I have been working on. And I think that's another example of how we can make people feel valued in an organization. And I mean, Vicky, you work in human resources, engagement and retention in an organization. A lot of your retention and engagement strategies will be around how you can make people feel valued in an organization. And a simple way to make people feel valued is to let them demonstrate their work and to be celebrated for their work. Okay. So yeah, recent developments, it seems very like a simple and obvious thing to do. And I think we should make sure to do it because a number of reasons, as I just mentioned. And I guess the final reason to make sure that you deal with recent developments is to show that you are a manager, okay? That you remember what happened last time, that you have prepared for this meeting to ask people about the work that they have been working on. You know, it's frustrating when you have a meeting and another meeting and another meeting, and there's no sense of progression from between those meetings. As a manager, you want to highlight and demonstrate that there is progress, and asking people to present their work is a great way to do that. Okay, good. Great job, Francis. Thank you. I owe you a beer, bubble tea, whatever you want, okay? So yeah, Jack, on our last call, you were asked to conduct market research into our competitors. Could you give us a brief update on your progress? Okay, thanks for the update. So if there's nothing else to review, let's move on to today's agenda. Very simple approach there. You know, just good practice to say the name of the person on a conference call because you lack that visual stimulus, sometimes that non-verbal communication. Here, when I say use polite, indirect language, so yeah, could you give us a brief update on your progress? So not, hi Jack, I asked you to research our competitors. What's your progress? Okay, great. Okay, so that is one way of doing it, right? But not a very polite way. And Jack might leave that meeting feeling a little bit offended. So yeah, use kind of professional indirect language. Could you give us a brief update on your progress? And people will feel more valued, I think, and more equal. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, last one. The most productive conference calls have rules or guidelines to manage the discussion. Clarify these at the beginning of the call. For example, you might have a strict time limit on how long each person can speak. You might have a procedure for managing each item. For instance, you might introduce each item, ask each person for their input, discuss the item together, and then summarize the discussion. Don't forget to tell everyone to state his or her name before speaking and state the name of the person she or he is talking to. And Anna, this kind of goes way back to that point you made earlier in turn taking and the challenges that we face on a conference call. If you can maybe in a document outline how people can communicate on a conference call and give that to people before they join, great. You could ask a reputable training company like NextGen Corporate Language Training to come to your company and provide your team with training as to how they can take part in conference calls or virtual meetings. But yeah, just having some simple guidelines can really help. And again, like when I'm doing webinars or virtual training with clients, like, I don't know, Lin Yen, when presumably you received the meeting invite to the webinar that we did at eTree.
Yeah.
In the webinar invitation, did you see the attachment which has instructions on how to take part in a webinar? Did you read it?
Not at all.
Okay. But anyway, so I provide a document for people to read so that they can establish them, they can understand how to take part in a conference call. And actually, Lin Yen, that's great feedback because we're trying to make everything into video now. So we send people a little YouTube video link just to kind of introduce how to take part in a conference call. So that's a good reason for me to make that a video. Okay, very nice. Right, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to try and do a mini practice now because it's 9:30 and I need to go all the way to Danshui this evening. So that's a good hour and 20-minute drive for me through the mountains on my motorbike. But yeah, there's lots of useful language that I will put into the ebook. I'm going to go on holiday for 4 days, like you. So don't expect the ebook to come out immediately. I mean, if it does, that's because my holiday is going very badly. But yeah, I'll put the ebook together. I'll upload that to the members area on our website, and you'll be able to download a copy later on. And I'll also edit this video slightly and put that onto our YouTube channel so you can take a look at that afterwards. Reflect. In my training, I like to get people to reflect because it's an important part of learning and education. I think we do have a couple of minutes left. Could you all just think back the last hour and a half. Can you think of one thing you already knew, one thing that was new to you, and one thing you'd like to know more about from this training session? Okay, I'll give you just a couple of minutes to think about that, and then feel free to unmute your microphone and to share with the group. I think from an educational point of view, I mean, Anna, actually, it sounds like, did I read on your profile, you study cognitive behavioral therapy, is that right?
No, I study instructional technology.
Oh.
So
I
that
saw
we do
CBT.
Yeah, computer-based.
Computer-based technology, not cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay,
no,
yeah,
no,
it's the same. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anna, maybe as I've got you talking, could you just tell us your reflection?
Sure. I think after the section, you kind of reinforce everyone how to handle the virtual meeting. The first thing I think you mentioned about inclusive, that's very important. You make everybody feel they belong to the group. And also you mentioned about talk polite and indirect. I think that's the main point about respect. We respect each other. And then also you mentioned about one more thing I forgot. Okay. Anyway, getting out.
Okay.
One more point. Yeah, pretty much. You mentioned several good points. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. Thank you.